This is David with Corel Training.
This is Cassie Green from Apparelist.
This is Gordon and Firemark from the Entertainment Law Update.
And you're listening to
Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs RG, Regular Guy, and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
the best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorating.
Prepare for the wild.
All right, welcome into the show. It is Friday, February 9th, 2024. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery with our Success Group, and my mission is to inspire you to build a business that you love. And today, Terry, we are going to be interviewing you. So I'm going to ask you to get up, change seats, and move over to the interviewer's seat. Oh, wait.
Spin my chair around.
Yeah, you just... And now we welcome in Terry Combs as he spins around. So anyhow, we had such a great conversation with Johnny Shell last week, Terry, that and there were lots of really good questions in the chat that we didn't get to. And I know, you've learned a lot about DTF, right? We go back a few years ago where I recall saying to you, hey, Terry, what have you heard about this DTF thing? I hear all these people talking about it. And he's like, I don't know. What is it?
I felt really stupid at the time.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I figured that you might. Yeah. But that's how crazy this whole thing's been, right? We go from that place of not really know. I didn't really know a whole lot about it either, other than the fact that, I knew Todd was doing some stuff with it. And so I was just trying to gather as much information as I could. And so we've come a long way since then. And honestly, now when I have a DTF question, I go to Terry. So this is a great, we've come full circle here, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. So I'm excited to quote unquote interview you, Terry.
All right. Yeah, I've gone from, I don't know, Aaron, what is it, to doing seminars on the subject. So
that's
here
kind of been our podcast journey too, right? That's how we started this podcast. I don't know what it is, because I asked you to do it, and you said, well, what's a podcast? And I said, well, I don't really know, but here's what I know so far. and here we are. And
11 full years.
11 full years. Yep. Because next Friday we'll start our kind of, if you look at the birthday of it, it was February 12th, I think was when we kicked off back in 2013. So next week's show will start the very first year of year 12. So there we go.
That's crazy. Anybody, any new listeners who are going back in the archive, skip year one. Just, let me just tell you that right now. Skip year one and go straight to year two.
Hey, make sure you're figuring things out.
Yeah. Make sure you stay till the very end and get your helping of the secret sauce. And today I'm going to stay on the DTF theme and share applying adhesive powder and curing DTF sheet films. That's
nice.
That's a long title, but for a short subject.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be great. I cannot wait for that helping of the secret sauce, and to get into talking to you about what you've learned about DTF over these last few years. So normally here, guys, we would have the news segment, but I got a text message from Marcia Derryberry, who's now the I guess I don't know her official title, but I'm assuming it's editor of Screen Printing Magazine. I'm sure I will screw it up. I'll say Marcia Derryberry, the editor of Impressions Magazine, but she's the editor of Screen Printing Magazine now, so she's in her world. Anyhow, I got a text from her.
One of those earlier episodes of Two Regular Guys, you would have said the editor of Impressions Magazine.
Yep, exactly. So she is back into her zone of greatness, and she has taken over at Screen Printing Magazine, and so we're really excited to be talking to her. We were going to have her join us for the news here today, and like I said, I got a text from her that she is actually going to be in a hospital this morning unexpectedly. I got a picture from her, and I got text, and she's doing okay, but obviously not in any shape to be delivering the news. So we just want to wish Marcia a speedy recovery. As it sits right now, we do have her on schedule to join us next week. So fingers crossed that she's doing much better, and just, again, wishing her lots of love, light, and a speedy recovery there, Terry. So
absolutely,
glad to hear that Yep. So I told her to keep us posted. So we'll keep
Yep.
you guys posted and hopefully
we
have her
have
next
both
week.
known Marsha for many, 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 many years. So
Yep. Yeah, you've probably, because she was around even before I was in the industry. You guys were both in the industry together. So you
yeah,
probably
absolutely. And I've been writing articles for the trade magazine since, okay, here it is, 1990. So I've known Marsha for a long, long time.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Do you want me to say what I was doing in 1990?
Sure, go ahead.
I was a sophomore in high school.
Hey, I didn't say hey, they had school newspapers in high school. Maybe I was a school newspaper guy.
Yeah.
No,
Terry, all right. Well, I'm not going to give Terry any more of a hard time. So anyhow, with that being said, yes, no news segment today. We will catch up on everything next week, but not to worry. We do have a dad joke. There may even be a bonus dad joke here. We were talking a little bit before the show. So why don't we hit that? Terry, are you ready to bring us a dad joke? I read it for the first time this morning and I actually laughed out loud. So I'm looking
very good. Very good. I am ready. All right, Aaron. Did you know that not all math jokes are terrible?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, only some. For our podcast listeners, SUM, some.
See the sum.
All right.
Okay. All right. That's very good.
You want to do your bonus joke, or you want to save
I will
it?
do the bonus joke because I do have to give another shout out. I know I showed it. It's actually hanging on the wall, so I won't pull it down here. But one of the regulators and a good friend of mine, Michelle Wilson, who's also in the Masters of Success group, saw this calendar that was a dad joke calendar. And I got a really nice note along with it saying, when I saw this, I knew who I had to send it to. So, and then she did mention that there's a yoga joke in there, which is perfect for my wife, Kylene, because of her Rise, Shine, Smile yoga and that she's an instructor for. So I'm going to look over here. I'm going to read this next dad joke. Here we go. Terry, someone once told me that yoga is the best antidepressant available. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought about it and I said, I don't know. It sounds like a bit of a stretch.
But
Thank you.
That's pretty good. All right. Before we dive in, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We need your voices still. We would love to have all the regulators participate in our show intros. So go to decorators.inc/intro and read a few sentences to be a part of every show. And we've gotten some already. Obviously, we're doing new intros every week, but we'd love to have more. We are always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2, the number 2, regular guys to book a future episode, or you can email us at info@tworegularguys.com and share your show ideas. If you are listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on all the different podcast locations. We are everywhere. And so those reviews really help us out. So we'd love it if you go out there and give us a review. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and questions about DTF printing.
Yeah, looking forward to having this conversation with Terry. And Terry, when you're doing the housekeeping section there, I hope I'm not distracting as I'm reading all the listener comments and giggling and
out of the corner of my eye, I do see a lot of this.
So I apologize. But speaking of listeners' comments, though, let's talk to some of the regulators here this morning. Good morning to Mo checking in early there this morning, and Rena. Good morning from Las Vegas. She's still in Vegas. The APA show happening over there in Las Vegas. They've been
something else is happening in Vegas. Just what the heck is? Oh, that's right. Go Chiefs!
Oh God. Now, thanks a lot, Rena, for bringing up. Well, Rena's a Niners fan, so there might be some. So anyhow, yes, there's that whole Super Bowl thing happening. Can we say that, or did I just is the NFL going to be knocking down our door? I think I made a cardinal sin there. But anyway, so Rena's over there for that, and I've seen a couple pictures of her and some of our friends, Rena and Lauren, out there. I'm sorry, Betty and Lauren out with Rena, and man, I'm experiencing FOMO again. But anyhow, hopefully they're doing well. Martha Taylor, good morning, Martha. Thank you so much for being here. Cindy King, good morning. We've got Craig checking in from Boston, Collegiate Press wide format. And thank you, Ramona. I look forward to all of the great stuff that you share as well. Thanks very much. So this is where I started giggling, Terry. Ramona said, 1990s, shakes head. I was in my 11th year of my first marriage. I'm so young. Well, if I'm young, Kim Johnson, she was in elementary school in 1990, Terry. So, so was Eric, as I see in the background here. So it's all relative, I guess.
It's all relative. Exactly right.
Because Terry's young at heart. So that's the important part. All right. Let's see here. We got Ron checking in morning. Oh, some beers and coffee. That's an interesting combo. I like that, Ron. Thank you. And Jeremy Picker checking in morning, dudes. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. Dean Hudson. Dean, hello. Good morning. Thanks for checking in, man. Hopefully doing well. Good to see you again. And so I was incorrect. Jan Callahan. She's the Niners fan.
That's right. That's right. She had her Niners shirt on at the trade show in Long Beach. So
there you go. All right. I'm a Rams fan, right? Like St. Louis Rams, Rena? Is that
Super Bowl champion St. Louis Rams?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. It's still a sore subject here, by the way, folks. Just FYI.
Aaron, speaking of football too, when you were talking about 49ers fans, there's a local decorator here in Phoenix who's a friend. He does 49ers fan shirts, legal 49ers fan shirts. And when the 49ers played here, and Kim and I have Cardinals season tickets, and he was texting us, from his seats. We were texting from our way better seats. But the 49ers group here in Philadelphia, in Phoenix, bought 450 tickets to the game.
Wow.
It's just crazy. Phoenix is one of those teams where when you go to the game, there are more opposing team fans than Cardinals fans. It makes you feel bad, but because it's such a melting pot. Some people are from everywhere, and they still, just like me, I'm the huge Chiefs fan. And what's funny is, like, when the Chiefs played here, of course I have to wear my Chiefs gear, but all the rest of the time we're the Cardinals gear. And there's a real nice couple that sits next to us, and they always have their Cardinals gear on. But when the Cowboys were here, the wife was just all decked out completely in her Cowboys gear, so you support the local team unless your team's in town.
Well, and Phoenix is just that way, right? Now it's changing now that it's, kind of been a big city for as long as it has, but it used to be like when I was a kid growing up there, people were always like, oh, where are you from? Like, oh, I'm actually from Phoenix. And what? No. But where did you originally come from? It's like, no, I'm actually one of the few people that was born in Phoenix. Now it's changing quite a bit, but
you're that guy.
That guy. Yeah. Kind of like being in St. Louis here. Like, where'd you go to high school? Well, not in St. Louis. What? No, seriously. But where'd you go to high school here in St. Louis? That's the big question here in St. Louis. Where'd you go to high school? Not here. Okay. All right. Well, Eddie checking in. Howdy from Tennessee as well. So we've got the country
Eddie
covered.
Went to high school.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen Yosta yet, though. We're not international quite yet. But Yosta, if you're checked in, let us know that you're there. But Terry, let's dive into this. Are you ready to jump into?
Let's talk DTF.
Okay, perfect. So here again, we kind of explained this a little bit. The idea here is, what's Terry learned over the last few years, and that kind of thing. And so I think probably, Terry, the best place to start here is, and I know we talked a little bit about this with Johnny, but just to kind of reiterate and also kind of give your take on, why you've really kind of seen the need for it and become an expert in it. Why DTF? What makes it so special? Why is it kind of taking over a lot of places? Not taking over. That's the wrong terminology. Why has it become so popular?
It's certainly a technology that's grown faster than anything I've ever seen. It's just phenomenal. But several reasons. First, it's a very simple decoration method. I teach screen printing classes, as everybody knows, and I tell people in the class, you're going to go home and print. But it's going to take you probably 3 years to be an expert, because there's so many variables to the screen printing process, so many steps in the process. This is just a really, really easy method. easy to apply, and you can apply it to almost any substrate. So, it just makes it a lot easier there. And you can apply at a temperature range of 275 to 325 degrees, which means all those new man-made fabrics, all the wicking fabrics, and I haven't seen a fabric yet that you can't apply a DTF transfer to. So, but the biggie for me, being a longtime screen printer and now a longtime DTG participant as well, is there's no dye migration. And for all the embroiderers out there, let me explain dye migration. When you print on a cotton shirt, when you screen print or do a DTG transfer, or I'm sorry, DTG print onto a cotton shirt, hey, you print white ink, it's going to be white. As soon as you start getting into blended fabrics like a 50-50, 50% cotton, 50% polyester, what happens under heat is the dye on the polyester will release into the ink. So that 50-50 red shirt that has a beautiful white print, the name of some middle school on it, when it comes at the other end of the dryer, it comes out from under your heat press, it's suddenly pink. That's called dye migration. Yeah. But the adhesive on DTF transfers blocks any of that dye. So you can do you can print those red polyester shirts all day long, 100% polyester shirts all day long with zero dye migration. So it's dye migration is the scourge of screen printing, to the point where screen printers, there's additives you can add to your ink to lower the curing temperature just to try to avoid that. But it's still difficult to avoid. But that's probably the big thing for people who are already decorating is no dye migration, and the fact that you can apply the transfer to anything. And other items as well. Our good friend Jay Bassell, he anything he can get into a heat press, he will put a DTF transfer on. And so he does those little notebooks, those little cardboard notebooks for field books and things like that. He applies to those. He applies to the mesh on a hat, which looks super cool. Just anything that he can get in a heat press, he's put these transfers on it, and they work. Coasters, and add to that, the washability is just incredible. And I was one of those naysayers at the beginning. When I saw that transfer go down, I thought this is going to be a novelty. This is not going to wash well. Washes just like a screen print, washes just like a DTF print. It's in my estimation, a permanent print. I know at Equipment Zone, they stopped doing wash tests at 60 washings. Well, 50 washings in our industry is a permanent print. So it ended up being an incredible product.
Yeah. So it sounds like, what I'm hearing, and just kind of from my knowledge of it too, it's the versatility of it in a lot of ways that has made it this fast growing segment of the printing and decorating marketplace. Is that
right? And you don't have to have all you have to have is good artwork. You don't have to have a lot of decorating skill. I mean, there's certainly ways to improve the quality, and there's a right way and a wrong way. Thanks to our friends on the internet, a lot of the wrong way out there, but it's a really, really easy process to learn and produce product.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, let's. Dean Hudson said my F2100 is printing DTF right now. Kim Johnson shared, I print DTF almost every day with my F2200. And Jeremy Picker, sorry, yep, I misread those. But Jeremy, yep, thank you there, Eric, sorry. Jeremy Picker said, I've had many, so we're talking about dye migration back with the screen printing processes. I've had many botch projects using discharge on poly cotton. In LA used to overdo their black CVCs, and 3 days later when it showed up to the client, the print was red or a different color. Yeah, so that, like you said, it's the scourge of screen printing at all levels. So
dye migration and pinholes. And
yeah, that's right. All right. Well, okay. So you talked about, you kind of being on the naysayer side early on, and I still, to this day, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and there's it's always interesting. It's like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Where's that information coming from? Oh, really? That's somebody that their business is getting beat up by DTF. Okay, think about that for a second, right? But let's talk about that, right? Is it like, are the end users, the people that are buying the apparel, getting these products, is there resistance to DTF garments?
You know, that's interesting. And I mentioned this when we were talking to Johnny Shell as well.
Yeah.
I think all the resistance has come from decorators and like myself, because I thought, well, I don't know if I like the look of it or the feel of it. The end customer seems to have zero problem with it. And I've talked, I talk to people who run this kind of equipment every single day, and lots of, especially screen printers, are so surprised that their customers think, "Oh no, that looks cool. I love it." And so we were the ones that were, digging our heels in. And I just got an email from a potential customer this past week, and she said, "Hey, I'm interested in DTG, but almost everything I do is 50-50." And then in all caps, "But I don't want to do DTF transfers." And I thought, your customer didn't say that to you. That's you. That you were me when I first saw this technology. So, and I think that, and I've talked to a lot of decorators about this subject, and everybody's in agreement. I didn't love it when I first saw it, but my customers do. And like Kim said, she's doing DTF transfers every single day on her 2270. Because of all the different substrates she does for her customers. She goes from cotton to poly to everything in between. So
yeah. I think that's interesting. Dean actually has a comment also here that says the only ones to complain are the other screen printers that are not doing them, right? Yeah, and I think that kind of leads into where I also wanted to kind of ask you, right? Why is there so much misinformation on the internet and at the I think a lot of it probably is to do with how new it is, but kind of dig into that a little bit more for us.
Yeah, and as you and I both always harp on, there's misinformation about all decoration methods, but the trick here is it's such a new technology that so many people don't really know anything about it. So a lot of the misinformation is Band-Aids. Just like with every other decoration method, here's the Band-Aid I put on to make this work. Yeah. Of course, on the internet, there's all those people that want to be the expert. They have, they're in one of the forums, and all they can do, they spend their entire day answering questions, and usually with a little bit of sarcasm. And I always tell people in my classes, hey, listen, if you see somebody post more than 5 times a day, they're not an expert, because they're clearly not running a business if they have time to sit on the internet and answer questions all day long. Or they have ulterior motives. They're trying to, and I tell people this all the time. Who is that person answering a question? Are they a decorator? Are they somebody who sells equipment? They're trying to steer you one way or the other. So, lots of reasons for misinformation. I think the biggest thing that trips people up, though, is people posting their Band-Aid for making something work. And we're going to talk about some of those Band-Aids as we get further into this conversation.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I think you're so right on that ulterior motive thing, right? Like, the big one, and again, I get it, right? We don't probably at this point have enough information to really be 100% certain, but the concern about the powder and the safety around that. I mean, you've told me this, right? You've been using this powder since the 70s.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the exact same powder that we used on plastisol transfers. The same powder people use today making plastisol transfers. If you buy a transfer from Transfer Express, well, they also do DTF now, but in the past, all they did was screen print transfers. Those transfers were actually screen printed onto that transfer paper, and while it's still wet, adding that powder adhesive to make it adhere better to the garment. So, people were running around in circles screaming, "The sky is falling." And I'm like, I think this is the same stuff I was using, years
Yeah.
ago, and then
Yeah.
come to find out it was, or it is.
Yeah. And I think the big question is, from what I've heard, and this is just hearsay on my part. So again, until somebody actually does some real testing and steps in, we got to kind of understand that. But it apparently gets ground down a little finer to make the handless and stuff like that. And so it could be more airborne. I mean, I think anything that's kind of a powder like that you chop up and sniff in lines, it's going to be detrimental to your health, right? But so
exactly right. Whether you work in a flour factory or it's back years ago when all these garments were being made in the southeast U.S. There were people who would get lung issues because they worked 40 years in a factory making cotton T-shirts. So all of it translates to just be smart.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it just, and also go a little, maybe this is just in general, I think with everything, right? This is how misinformation spreads, is because we're not willing to go deep enough to go, okay, let's, I always kind of say, well, A, follow the money, B, right? Like, what's the alternative mode? I'm not saying everybody's bad, but everybody's going to have their own lean or spin on it. That's going to, you said that earlier, right? It's the ulterior motive. They want to kind of be the expert, and they're going to tune it their way. So anyhow,
Aaron, and I'll give you an example of that. There was one manufacturer of DTF printers that was using a liquid adhesive as opposed to a powder adhesive.
Yeah.
And they were preaching the dangers of powder adhesive. Well, the problem was that liquid adhesive system didn't really work very well. So what did they do? They went to a powder adhesive, and all of a sudden, it's not the great Satan that it was, at the last trade show, because now we're using it too. So, and that was just a total ulterior motive. Let's spread the fear, so everybody comes to our machine, because our machine is the only one that has this liquid adhesive system. So,
okay. All right. Well, again, I will take this way farther than it needs to go. So let's get into the meat of this here, Terry. I apologize for getting us off track, but all right. So you talked about the fact that as a screen printer, we probably need about 3 years to really become, an expert in it. DTG, right? You got maybe a little bit of a learning curve here. From your take on what you've learned over the years, what's a realistic learning curve to be a quality DTF printer that you can be proud of what you're putting out there?
Yeah, and I've been saying to people for several years now, to be an expert DTG printer, 30 to 90 days, because there are some variables. There's a bit of a learning curve on how to properly apply pre-treat. A lot of mistakes, a lot of misinformation out there about pre-treat. And I'm going to put DTF in that 30 to 90 days and lean a little bit more towards 30, because there are not very many components in the process, and you're going to apply the transfers exactly the same way. The only difference is going to be in what temperature you're going to use. And so those are little things to learn, and just totally compressing the number of variables in the process. So, if you're printing DTF transfers every day, 30 days from now or 10 days from now, you're going to know everything there really is to know about the process. Now, that said, this is young, this is 3 or 4 years old. So we're going to be, there are going to be more and more developments in this process, but it's very, very simple. So it's an easy thing for people to jump in and do full color images. The trick, and I would say this about DTG as well, is you have to have good artwork. Artwork is going to separate you from the competition.
So you have to have Dane Clement, is what you're telling me.
Exactly.
Just kidding. All right. If you don't have Dane Clement, just use whatever you have lying around. All right. Sorry, I go back to that old ESPN hockey commercial all the time, and nobody else has ever seen it except for me, apparently. Okay. Couple quick comments here from the regulators before we get too far away from them here. Well, I actually have. Can we go back even further, and can I get completely off topic real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So Jeremy earlier had mentioned why, when he was in Arizona in the early 90s, why you don't have as many folks that are Cardinals fans because there was not a team until the early 90s. And so everybody had their, Broncos were definitely one. It was the Broncos and the Cowboys because I grew up there for sure. And that's what I always felt around my schools and stuff like that. Everybody was either rooting for the Broncos or the Cowboys. And so, now Jeremy's in Denver or in the Colorado area rooting for the Broncos again. So anyhow, all right, like I said, I was going to get us off track, but Eddie later on says, and I think this is the interesting part, right? We all have our preferences and our styles and what we like. And so you can't sit there and say, well, Eddie's wrong or somebody else is wrong. But the reality is we all have those preferences. So his preference is, to me, DTF is better than DTG quality wise. Right. And so, I think there's a place because then Kim said DTF definitely has its place in the industry. However, I'm not sure you can beat the feel of screen printing or DTG. Right. And so again, what's quality to you? Right. Like to me, DTF does typically have a little bit of a brighter white to compared to a DTG, but maybe, it's the pre-treatment. Like you said, there's that everybody's got their own level of what quality is. So do your customers love it? Right. That's the question that you have to answer. Right. And part of your responsibility is educating your customers on why they should love what you do. So.
And we mentioned this last week, but when we were talking to Johnny, and it was one person said, "Oh, my customers don't like it," and my immediate thought was, "You're projecting that on the customer. You're convincing that customer that they don't like this process." I think
I agree with that. But if you really don't like it, then that's fine. But not to then to go around and bash everybody. I don't know. That's where it starts to fall apart, right? Like, okay, well then that's fine. If your customers don't like it, then make sure that but guess what? I've seen a lot of people leaking customers because they think their customers don't like it, and they're going, "Yeah, I'm gonna go do that." I'm gonna go get that
right.
from somebody else. So they're like, "See ya, Aaron." They're gonna back away. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so we got that. Michelle's a Broncos fan as well. Excellent.
What the heck?
You're surrounded, Terry. Okay, so both Dean
can I make a Raiders comment?
Oh gosh. Okay.
just that somebody posted recently that the Chiefs are playing a postseason game in the Raiders' new stadium before the Raiders ever played a postseason game.
Oh boy.
Sorry, Raiders fan. Not sorry.
Okay. I want to get us back on track. Michelle says, I just started DTF and my customers love it. But okay. So we mentioned earlier that Dean mentioned earlier he was doing, actually right as we speak, I believe, on his F2100 DTF prints. So Kim does daily on her F2270. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes.
All the numbers and soup. I'm not close enough to it anymore. But talk to us about that then. How does DTF work on a DTG printer? Why would I not just go with a made for DTF?
Well, and again, I'm going to mention screen printers again, who are folks who sell screen printing like the DTG feel better than DTF. But here's the beauty on a DTG machine is that most of them now, the software has a DTF option on it. So what does that mean? It means it prints in reverse order without you. When we first started using DTG printers, we would have to, print a CMYK, stop it, resend it with the white ink, and we had a I don't know, all these steps that we would give out to people.
Rub your tummy, pat your head, I think was part of that process too. Yeah,
exactly. But now it's just an option. So it prints in reverse order. And it lays down less ink because you don't need as much ink with DTF as you do with DTG. So, and here's what people seem to be surprised about, and I hear it all the time. Well, so I have to change out the ink? No, it's this. All you have to buy is film and adhesive powder. Everything else is the same. You use the exact same ink, and so all you do is select the and for anybody, by the way, who has an F2100 out there at Epson anyway, there's an upgrade to the software that has that DTF option. So if you're still doing that, the longer process, make sure you get that upgrade from Epson, but or any of your suppliers as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think a lot of the other DTG machines have. I know you're pretty into the Epson stuff, but I think I've heard some similar things from some of the other piece of equipment
Correct.
out there.
Yeah.
Too, so,
I think most everybody has the DTF option now. So whatever machine you're using, reach out to your manufacturer, your supplier, and they should be able to get that upgrade for you. But the big thing is you don't have to buy anything extra. You can even use the same heat pressure you're using now to cure those transfers, and I'll talk about that in the secret sauce. So hang around.
Okay. All right. I'm excited about that. So Ramona said earlier here when we were talking about kind of that presentation, she says in your approach and presentation of your product, you need to tell them what they see. In embroidery, I see the smallest bits and the customers don't generally see it unless I point it out. Love what you do and others will too. And then Jeremy Picker said, I'm a screen printer for life, but been doing DTF for smaller projects that are higher color count, mainly for my son's yearly birthday t-shirt, but I find out I never wear them. Back to screen printing this year. So again, it does come down to that preference. And then Jeremy said the washability has been great with DTF over DTG in his opinion. And right. And I love that, right. That we're sharing these things. Cindy says, if there's a price point difference, I think customers would like the most economical, right. And sometimes some customers, some don't, right. It just depends on what they value and how you're leading them and guiding them through that process. So,
and if you're out there buying transfers, you're paying $6-8 for a full front transfer. If you're producing your own on a DTG machine, you're looking probably $1.25, $1.50 on a DTF printer, as low as 50 cents a square foot. So, and that's for everything, the film, the ink, the adhesive. So, it can be very, very economical. When you're talking about 50 cents a square foot, you're getting close to screen printing costs. Screen printing inks are less expensive than that even, but all of a sudden you're getting down there where you can be competitive, because a DTG machine, maybe $2 for a full front image, unless you're going to get up into a $50,000 plus machine where it's going to be closer to $1 for that full front print. But the thing about a $2 print or $1.50, $1.25 print is most of this work is for short runs, and people are willing to pay more money to be able to get that full color image, but get 17 shirts or 7 shirts or 1 shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the other thing that I think people, I don't want to gloss over it, right? We got to give them both sides of this. Not that there's a ton more time, but you do have to factor in your time, right? You've added a step to the process, at least one step to the process. I mean, you've got pre-treat, but I can go buy a pre-treated shirt, right?
Correct.
And so, if you're somebody that doesn't do this a whole lot, isn't really set up for it, right? Okay, so now I've got to change the settings on this. I got to do, so there could be more time involved, and so you have to understand that as you're thinking about the costs inside of what you're doing. So,
right, exactly.
Yep. And then Dean says also customers like the full color, which is hard to do screen printing on small runs, right? Yep, for sure. So, and then Eddie made a comment here. I'm not going to say that I completely disagree with Eddie, but I would add to it if I can. But Eddie says the two driving force is cost for most customers. And I guess, like I said, what I would add to that is if you allow it to be, right? Like if that's the only reason a customer is choosing you because of the cost, then you've got to look at how you're presenting your perceived value. What makes you unique? Why would they do business with you? So anyhow, that's a soapbox I'll get on if you guys.
Well, and I agree, Aaron, that I think that an example that I give in my classes is people will drive across town for 2-for-1 milk, but they'll pay a premium for a shirt that they can relate with or they want to identify with. And it's back to that old story of did I know how much it cost to make those Rolling Stones t-shirts when I went to the merch tent Yeah, I knew how much it cost. Did I pay $40 for a t-shirt? Yeah, it was the Stones. So, you know, sometimes it's finding the right customers as well. You know,
Yeah. So
if you're finding the customers that are nickel and diming, there are customers in your same town who are willing to pay a premium for a premium product.
yeah, yeah. You're gonna have to change that story though, Terry. I don't think the Stones really carry. Maybe just say Taylor Swift or something like that, right? All right. Sorry. Let's get back on track here. I apologize. Okay.
That was probably trademark infringement also.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm in big trouble today. All right. All right. So I think this came up as a question last week, and we didn't get a chance to get to it with Johnny, but I could be remiss, maybe not. But this is the question, right? I've heard a lot about this whole white versus black adhesive powder. Tell me which should I pick and what? I don't know.
You know, and it's funny because just last week Kim mentioned to me that on one of the forums, she spends a lot of time on forums, you know, and helping people out with DTG and stuff like that. But she asked me because people were talking about, well, I use black powder for this and white powder for that. And I'll tell you why there is black adhesive powder. It's a Band-Aid for people who aren't doing the process correctly. So here's what happens with the white powder. You apply the white powder to your wet ink. You cure the film. You apply it to the shirt, and there's all these little white speckles all over the shirt. Well, that's adhesive that has stuck to the film. So a couple of things, you know, you've not gotten the moisture out of the film beforehand, or you haven't, you know, shaken it so that all the adhesive falls off. So black powder came about because people doing black t-shirts, this is a Band-Aid. So if any of that black adhesive stuck to the film, then you don't see it on the black shirt. So that's why you see both. And you know, we were joking the other day about, I guess we could have every color of powder. Oh, you're doing lemon yellow shirts. So here's the lemon yellow adhesive powder, or you could just do the film correctly.
Yeah. Because my first thought was, why don't we just have clear? But then dye migration happens.
Oh yeah, true. I guess it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, I don't know. Just a guess.
Okay. Maybe that'll be a new product.
There you go. If anybody, so can I trademark that and just to make sure that they send me royalties if you come out with a clear adhesive pack? No. All right.
USPTO.gov. That's the United States
just
Patent and Trademark Office.
Yeah. Eric, can you put the show on hold? I need to run. All right. We got lots more questions here, Terry, and I'm keeping us off track. But okay. So speaking of other challenges, right, that Band-Aids or whatever, what causes blotches in the images after it's applied? And maybe explain what that is too.
Yeah, sometimes a print, especially if the big area of a single color, it'll almost look like a watermark in the ink. Same situation as with the black and the white powder. The film will absorb moisture, and because there's a coating on the film that attracts your water-based ink. Well, that coating will also attract water out of the air. And so what will happen is when you print over that moisture in the film, when you apply it, it almost like washes out the color a little bit in the areas of the shirt. So it's really a matter of getting the moisture out of your film. And that's one of the things we've learned in the short history of DTF printing is that, hey, that film is attracting moisture, and we need to get rid of that moisture before we print the garment, before we add the adhesive. So that's a pro tip for you that a lot of people don't realize. I talk to people every other day who are having that issue and don't realize that film has, because you don't see it, but there's moisture in the film. And I'm going to talk about in the secret sauce how to get rid of that moisture.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Man, I'm jumping ahead then. Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, we're film onto a inkjet printer, so we obviously need moisture in the air for that inkjet printer to work correctly, right? That proper environment. But your film has to be the opposite of that. It needs to be dry. Oh, okay. This secret sauce. I'm excited. All right. Well, so okay, then what's the best way to apply DTF transfers?
Yeah, absolutely. And people's methods vary a little bit, but generally what we're going to do is we are going to heat press for 15 seconds at medium pressure. And uh, it depends on the substrate you're printing on or you're applying to the temperature. So cotton's going to be at the high end, about 325. Polyester is going to be at 275. And you're going to have to experiment to get the ideal press time. But after you peel the transfer, and if it's a cold peel, wait a minute and peel it off. And what a lot of people do with cold peel is they'll press it for 15 seconds, take it off, press another one, take it off, and stack them up, and then bring them back over, peel it. You want to press it again for another 5 seconds. Some people go as much as 15 seconds. But here's the pro tip. Rather than just pressing it, lay a sheet of Pellon or an old T-shirt or some kind of fabric on top of that transfer before you press it. And when you peel it away, that it's going to soften up the look of that transfer. It's not going to look as plasticky because you're giving it texture by having a sheet of Pellon or a sheet of fabric on top of it. And it really makes a difference in the print. That second print really came about because people were, if you're going to have any peeling at all of that transfer, it's going to be because when you pulled that sheet off, maybe you've picked the transfer up a little bit. So that second hit was for that. But more than anything now, it's to soften up that image by having some kind of fabric on top of it. So,
yeah, I love it. And I think it was Mike maybe for last week also mentioned using embroidery stabilizer as a cover sheet. And then Johnny brought up T-Seal, which interestingly enough, I was talking to a friend of mine this week, and he reminded me that T-Seal actually kind of showed up on the scene in the white toner days as a way to deal with the kind of stiffness of the white toner. So yeah, that's an interesting take on that. So okay, so and just to kind of clarify for anybody that just kind of jumped in late too, when we talked about applying there, Terry, you were talking about after the transfer's printed, the powder's been on, and the powder gets kind of, I don't know, gelled. Is that how would you describe what happens before we then transfer?
Melts. The powder melts.
Yeah, and I know you're going to get into that in the secret sauce here, so I'm not trying to get ahead, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that there's these steps that occur before.
You're exactly right. We're talking about physically taking that transfer and applying it to the garment, whether you printed it yourself or you bought it from, one of the 1,000 people out there now selling DTF transfers.
Yep, for sure. Okay. And then we kind of, I started on this journey early, but I think this is a good way to start wrapping us up here. This is the big question, right? Is adhesive powder and the vapors from it safe? What give us what you know again.
Here's what I know. And as you mentioned before, the adhesive powder is the exact same powder that screen printers have been using for decades. It's a little more finely ground, which means, yes, it could lift up if you vigorously shake a transfer while it still has the powder on it. Yeah, it can get up into the air. But here's what I've found. And searching, preparing to do a seminar. And it says the fumes can cause eye, skin, or respiratory irritation or potential allergic reaction in some people. So, it's not the great evil. Like in Kim's shop, she has one of those little curing ovens to cure her to dry or melt the film, let me rephrase that. Melt the adhesive powder on the film.
You want to melt the film, yes.
Yeah, so she's got one of those $250 ventilation devices that you buy from Amazon over top of the vent on top, just to pull it out of the air. So, it's a matter of using common sense. More and more of this adhesive powder is OECO-TEX certified, which means that it's safe to use on even children's apparel. So I think a lot of this, the great evil was two things. One, companies who were using a different method and trying to scare people away, and there's another one where people were getting scared because one of the well, I'll just tell you, it was Epson. Epson was cautioning people about the adhesive powder, and so everybody took that to mean, oh, that's dangerous. You don't want to use it. Here's what they were warning about. People were putting the transfers. People were putting the transfers on the machine, printing them, and then sprinkling the powder while it was on the machine. And that powder was getting inside and gumming up the work, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so what their warning was, don't do this right there on your machine. And the translation was, oh, that stuff's bad.
Yeah.
It is bad if you get it inside your DTG printer.
Yeah.
So,
well, just like the pre-treatment, like don't pre-treat on your machine, right? Same thing. Okay. All right. Good.
Exactly right.
That clears up a lot of things. Yeah.
And of course, I said to the product manager over there, I'm like, somebody really did that? And she's like, Terry, they did. If there's a way to do it wrong, somebody's out there doing it wrong.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So Eddie said earlier, I do mostly embroidery, but started offering DTF for the ones that wanted jacket backs due to the cost. $100 for embroidery, $25 for DTF, right? And so, there's definitely, again, Kim said it earlier. There's a place for all of this, and I think this. We've always said this, Terry. These are tools in our tool belt, right? You're a product decorator. You're trying to bring your customer's vision to life. And then you're the expert on the best way to get there, whether that's embroidery, DTG, DTF, screen printing, sublimation, whatever.
It's just like when Dane Clement was on our podcast recently, and he said, when I saw this AI artwork being done, he goes, I said, say it ain't so. And then I thought, it's the future. So I embraced it. Yeah, that's what everybody needs to do. Embrace new technology.
For sure. And I think that's what Eddie's saying. Right? He's embracing that because, he's got customers that need that. And if he can make that work in his business, then awesome. And Dean's been on me because I've got an F2100, but it does not, poor thing is a little bit lonely at times, but, and I do make some, but I just, it's not my everyday thing. He said, I told Aaron he needs to start doing DTF over a year ago and start using his machine. I do occasionally, but I wonder if that powder and stuff goes bad. Is that a thing?
The powder?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so. I can't imagine how.
Yeah, because I've had some for a long time. when it shows up in that cocaine-looking brick, right, and then you go, okay.
I always laugh when the Equipment Zone buys by thousands of pounds of it, but I always wonder what happens when it goes through, the customs, and it's 2.2 kilo bricks of bags, and cases and cases of them. Or are they going in there like randomly cutting them open, tasting it?
Yeah. All right. Kim Johnson said Vastex is coming out with a powder shaker, the TF 100. The powder adhesive is contained within the unit. It will be at the DTF Expo there in Phoenix on February 23rd through the 24th. Yeah, I'm bummed, man. That's a bummer that they picked that date because I'd like to be at both, but Dax is also that same weekend.
It's the exact same time, exactly.
Yeah, it's a bummer. They'll get it together here. Everybody's kind of figuring things out here. All right. Marianne says, I specialize in embroidery. Let my friends do their screen printing. There's plenty of work for everybody. Love that abundance mentality, Marianne. Thank you. All right, Terry. Well, I've got a ton more questions, but I know you're going to give me the answers in the secret sauce. I've been trying to pull it out of you, but you've held on. So stay tuned for secret sauce. But speaking of staying tuned, what's happening out in Terry's big book of travels there? Where can people find you?
Screen printing is still a thing, everybody. Everybody relax. My next Chicago
you
class.
Still fill up your classes,
They
right?
still fill up. In fact, my class at Atlas Screen Supply, March 9th and 10th, was sold out, but they just had two people cancel. So there's 2 spaces left in that class for March 9th. My class here at Workhorse Products is May 4th and 5th. So if you want to May is a really, really good time to come to Phoenix. I'll tell you that. So
Mhm.
I'll be speaking at Impressions Expo at Atlantic City with my presentation. Everything you've heard about DTG and DTF printing on the internet is wrong. That's going to be Friday, March 22nd. And all my upcoming events, you can find at terrycombs.com. Don't call me on Sunday at 4 o'clock Mountain Time, because I'll be cheering on my Chiefs.
All right. Is
How
that
about you,
why
Eric?
the two people canceled in Atlas? They found out you were a big Chiefs fan, or
Could be.
yeah, could be. All right. All right. Well, as I mentioned, not going to be able to make the DTF Expo. Would love to get out to any chance to go to Phoenix in this time of year is always a good time. Like you mentioned in May in Phoenix, this is the way I always described it. The weather's so nice, you don't even know there's weather. Right? It's just like perfect temperature. So I will be at DAX Kansas City though over that weekend. Fundamentals of pricing your printing and the fundamentals for small business growth are the two seminars that I'll be presenting out there on Friday, February 23rd. And one of these days I'm gonna have to go fix the outline because I've got 2023, but it's actually 2024. And then Impressions Atlantic City is another stop for me that's official here. On March 21st, I will be talking about elevating your business with AI, harnessing ChatGPT for generative marketing. And that's happening on the 20th. Yeah, exactly. We'll take a quick moment at the beginning to just praise Skynet and then dive in. And then on the 22nd, I'll be teaching how to master pricing, making your business unstoppable. And then I'm also really excited to be heading out to all the Graphics Pro Expo events. So I will be there Saturday, March 9th. And from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And we're kind of still tweaking the description a little bit, but it's my pricing seminar that we'll be doing there as well. And so I'm looking forward to being out in Irving. My book of travel got really busy when I didn't expect it to, so which is awesome. I appreciate it so much. And then I've been talking a little bit about this, but FBS Live, we're actually calling it the Fundamentals Live. It'll be an opportunity to kind of teach the book. And it is officially happening June 7th and 8th. All the details are done. I just promised some people that they get first crack at the seats because we've only got 40 seats available and the interest is pretty high. But if you want to head over to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/OSG fundamentals and join that group, you'll be on that kind of early list. We'll announce it officially to the public either Sunday or Monday. We're trying to give people a chance, like I said, to get their spots just in case. And then we will allow signups to start happening. And man, I'm super excited about it. I just got all the details kind of put together and just thinking about it and envisioning it all happening. And wow, it's going to be super cool. So,
and looking at it this morning with the early glimpse, it looks like a massive undertaking on your part. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. It's just the help I've gotten from the rest of the Fab Four. So speaking of that, OSG Live happens every Wednesday morning. I'm skipping ahead here, Eric. Sorry. That's a collaboration with Tanya and my wife Kylene and Becky, and so they've been calling us the Fab Four. So they're the ones also helping me with the Fundamentals Live, and so it has been a big undertaking, but the support has been incredible, and I appreciate I shared it with Eric and Terry. I was pretty proud of what we pulled together, so I appreciate you saying that, Terry. And then last but not least, right, this is all coming out of the book that was published on the very last day of the 2023. So if you want to go check that out, go to osg.link/bizbook. You can see it right over my shoulder there. There's a few of them on the counter, but so that's what I've got coming up. And then Eric is also keeping himself busy here. So he has got the Take Up today in episode 181, and it's the importance of scale. How do you set up scale, know how and when to size, and deal with the physical limitations of the stitch? So Eric's Take Up is all about kind of the depth, the really deep it's literally a masterclass every Friday afternoon, typically an hour and a half, maybe sometimes a little longer, of just really good depth of what digitizing and embroidery and really understanding embroidery at a deep level. So he's going to discuss all about how to establish, understand, and deal with scale in embroidery. So if you'll head over to ericcampbell.com and click the Take Up tab at the top for all the episodes, you can join in at 2:30 Mountain Time today, or you can go watch all of the past episodes there at ericcampbell.com. And we will get to see Eric out at DAX coming up on February 24th. He's going to be teaching vintage values in machine embroidery and also digitizing details. So make sure you, if you're in the Midwest area there, come on out and see us. Go to daxshow.com. It's shaping up to be some really good shows this year. They've
Great.
got some new folks helping out over there at DAX, as well as Scott and Margie still moving things forward. So I'm really excited to see what 2024 brings for the DAX shows, and don't have FOMO like I've had the last couple of days. So.
Aaron, somebody commented to me, "Hey, what's up with DAX? They're all over social media." And I'm like, they've got some new help over there that's that's kind of bringing them into the 2023s and 2024s.
For sure. It's gonna be a good one. So if you can check that out, and out in Minnesota and out in Chicago land area, Tinley Park as well coming up, but we'll get to that when we get a little closer. So, all right, Terry, I know I've been jonesing for it. Everybody else has been jonesing for it here. We need the secret sauce. We're hungry. You ready?
All right, let's do some secret sauce. All right, today's secret sauce: applying adhesive powder and curing DTF sheet films. So let's talk about DTF transfers printed as single sheets on a DTG printer. Before you print, you should preheat your film to drive off any moisture. So why drive off the moisture? The adhesive powder can stick to it and transfer to your shirts as white specks around the image, or the areas that look a little washed out in your print as well. You can do this by closing your heat press to heat up the bottom platen for about 30 seconds, pop it open, and just lay that sheet, unprinted sheet, on the hot platen for 5 to 10 seconds, and you're good to go. Once you print the transfer, it's time to apply powder adhesive. There are two options: either a cut sheet automatic powder shaker, or applying adhesive powder by hand. An automatic powder shaker is an enclosed unit where you stand the film on an angled board, the powder drops from the top onto the film, and the board vibrates to remove the excess adhesive. These products are fairly new, so watch for developments in this technology over the coming year. Most single sheet film decorators still powder by hand. So for this process, buy a shallow tub bigger than the film at Target or something like that. And so if you're doing 14 by 16, your tub needs to be a little bigger than that. You're going to lay the film in the bottom of the tub, and with a flour scoop, you're going to pour adhesive across one end of the film. You're going to pick up the film from that end and lift it up and let the adhesive roll down the film. The adhesive slides down the film and it sticks to the wet ink, and then you're going to just tap the back to release any excess ink. There are 4 options for curing the printed and powdered transfer. So let's start with the least expensive option. You can use the heat press you already have and to cure your transfers. So like before, close the press for 30 seconds, then lay the transfer on the heated platen for 90 seconds. Now you can hover to hold in the heat, but it's not required. By hover, I mean put the heating element over the transfer. Speaking of hovering, this is not a reasonable method for curing transfers. Since heat presses are a contact heat source, they radiate very little heat when not in contact with the substrate. So just hovering over a film could take 6, 8, 10 minutes to cure. So it's not really a practical way. You need to heat up that bottom platen. You can cure the same way for 90 seconds using a bottom heated platen, which means a platen that actually has heating elements in it. Most heat presses on the market have a bottom heat element option, usually in the $700–800 range to add that to your heat press. The next option is a small curing oven with a drawer. Generally, these devices will cure a film in about a minute. They do require the same power as a heat press, so keep that in mind when you plug it in. If you're shopping for a curing oven, check to see what the maximum film capacity is. Many DTG printers can print up to 16 by 20 films, so make sure that the curing oven you buy is big enough for that size film. Many of them on the market are smaller than 16 by 20 inside. The last method is to run the film down a conveyor dryer. If you're a screen printer, you would need to speed up the belt substantially to keep from melting the film. With all these methods, testing with your own equipment is the best practice. So how do you know when the film is cured? The adhesive layer will have melted and have an orange peel finish. It will not be orange. Let me say again, it will not be orange. That's based on many, many phone calls saying, hey, mine didn't turn orange. It's just going to have the texture of an orange. So curing DTF transfer single sheets. That's my secret sauce today.
All right, I had to get a napkin. That was delicious. Wow, good stuff there, Terry. That changes a lot of my thinking. So maybe
Awesome.
Dean's going to talk me into doing more of this. Love it. I love it. All right. Well, Terry, what a great show today. Thank you for all the wonderful information. Hopefully everybody got a lot out of that. I think you just got a master class in DTF there. So Terry, great job on not only sharing all that, but putting this show together and sharing everything that you've learned over this short period of time when it comes to DTF printing. So appreciate that very much, Terry.
Absolutely. A short history. I appreciate that. And we also want to thank our show producer, Eric Campbell, for turning the knobs and pushing the buttons and keeping us on track. Thank you, Eric.
Yep, definitely. We really appreciate you, Eric. As I mentioned at the start of the show, Eric, or Terry and Eric, man, season 12. I cannot believe it. Wow. Thank you so much to everybody who's listened in for these 535 episodes that we've gone through here. And so, yeah, next week is 535. And we're going to, this came from our 10 things we wanted to see. We were talking about, getting some new people into the education space, into the seminar space. And you had mentioned, yeah, there's probably not enough how-to, right? I think, I utilized you. We've kind of worked off of each other to help grow our own skills. And Eric brings his certain skill set when it comes to developing a training education program. So we're gonna reveal some of our secrets here next week and talk about how to prepare. We're calling it how to prepare a trade show seminar, but really just how to prepare kind of an educational presentation, right? At the end of it, Terry,
Exactly.
That's what we're going for. So our hope is that if we share enough of this information, we'll start seeing some new fresh faces out there sharing their knowledge. So we're going to have all three of us on screen next week, and I'm really looking forward to doing that with you guys.
Me as well. And we can check off one of those things from our list. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.